right, so welcome to the podcast. This is our first video edition of this podcast, and as you can see, we have the obligatory stack of books behind me with a Braves book. That's a book about the Atlanta Braves. And judging from all the other podcasts, I think you're just kind of supposed to do this. Memorabilia, you have to have that. This is a much lower budget podcast than some of the other ones out there. So all we have is a Dan Uggla ball. It was signed by Dan Uggla. God bless Dan Uggla, though. I mean, no, I love Dan Uggla, or I wouldn't have the ball. And that's about it. That's all we got. So hopefully the budget will grow as we grow, or not. But let's get into the news. We're going to run through all the transactions the Braves have made since December 3rd. And then we're going to explain what that means, how this is going to impact the payroll, and what it means for the Braves moving forward. Because there's a lot of, like, when you start doing the math, we're going to do math. Okay, so get your calculators out. I'm going to help. I'm going to tutor you. So it's not all up to you. But we're going to take a look at how some of this math is working out for the Braves after all of these moves. Because there's a lot of moves, a lot of guys changing rosters. Alex Anthopoulos is just he is wheeling and dealing. All the talk has been around Shohei Ohtani and where's he going to sign and how many billions of dollars is he going to make. And now that dust has settled, and you look at what Alex Anthopoulos has been doing, there's a lot to cover. And he's the man, he's the master. So let's take a look at the art that he has been creating. And we'll dive in. December 3rd. Everybody remembers this trade. This is what kicked it all off on Sunday night. Heading in, hit the microphone. Sorry. Sunday night before the winter meetings, everybody's probably just getting into the hotels in Nashville, getting into their rooms and at the Opryland Hotel or wherever they were, and we get news Sunday night that a trade went down. Jared Kelenic, Marco Gonzales, and Evan White were sent to Atlanta in exchange for Cole Phillips and Jackson Kowar. And I think I'm pronouncing that right. I read the pronunciation on Baseball Reference. I'm not going to put too much time into even figuring it out because he's gone. He's gone. He's off to Seattle. Now, the Mariners sent us Jared Kelenic, Marco Gonzales, Evan White. 2 bad contracts to take on the potential of Jared Kelenic. We're going to get into Kelenic later in the week, a lot more. Maybe even later in this podcast on accident as we talk about his upside. But the Braves thought that's worth it. Now, keep in mind, we have a hole in left field coming into this offseason because we declined Eddie Rosario's $9 million option. And it looks like, and judging by the quotes from Alex Anthopoulos, that the Braves have found their answer in Jared Kelenic. Kelenic is under team control for 5 years and is currently, league minimum $800,000 a year type of player. And in order to get this deal done, we took on, this is a salary dump for the Mariners. You've heard it a million times. Marco Gonzales, Evan White. How we're not going to dilly-dally too long on this deal. I know it's been covered even by, talkingtomahawk.com and House to Hankville. Anywhere that covers the Braves has covered this deal. We have beaten it into the ground. So we got Jared Kelenic. Let's move on. We took on bad contracts to get him. December 5th. That was December 3rd. December 5th. This one was an interesting one. We did do a podcast on this one. Marco Gonzales traded to the Pirates. This one was interesting, not because we traded him. There was actually a report that we were going to trade him, that as part of this deal, we were going to flip Marco. And I just found that interesting that was leaked beforehand, because at the same time that we found that leak, or that the leak came out, we were hearing that we were getting quotes from Alex Anthopoulos that he doesn't leak, that his trades don't get leaked, and historically, usually these are surprises. When Alex Anthopoulos makes a deal, it's a surprise. That's why we didn't buy into Ohtani to Atlanta, or not buying it. I'm not buying in on Dylan Cease, but you don't really hear Anthopoulos deals getting leaked. And he even came out and said so much. And then turn around and Marco Gonzales is sent to the Pirates on December 5th, verifying one of the leaks. So that part was interesting. It wasn't that big of a surprise though, because that contract not so good, 12.25 million a year. Granted, the Mariners did send some money. We'll get into that in a minute. So we trade Marco Gonzales to the Pirates, and we get a player to be named later. There's some, we're sending him money. Basically, we're sending money. We sent money. Marco Gonzales, we're sending money. We're helping pay for it. Mariners helped us pay for him. Now we're sending money with him to Pittsburgh. And there's a player that's going to be named later. We'll see how that plays out. December 8th, the Braves make a 4-player deal with the Angels. The Braves shed $17 million owed to Evan White over the next 2 seasons in this trade. And that sounds good. As we hear these deals coming in, we're thinking, okay, we're shedding the bad contracts now. Now we're adding pieces. We're working up to some sort of big end goal, and we're getting rid of these bad contracts. We're getting rid of the Marco Gonzales contract. We're getting rid of Evan White. But we're going to start doing the math on this a little bit later, and it gets even more interesting. But just on the surface, it sounds like that's what we're doing is removing these contracts. So we moved Evan White and left-hander Tyler Thomas to the Angels for infielder, David Fletcher and Max Stassi, catcher. And this one is David Fletcher is obviously the big name in this deal. Tyler Thomas was a recent addition, minor league. I think he was a Rule 5 draft guy that we just picked up and then turned around and flipped him. The big thing, Evan White, we got rid of that contract. We took on a couple of bad contracts from the Angels. But David Fletcher is the biggest name in this deal. And we'll cover him a little bit more later in the week too. But this guy is, career slash triple slash line 277, 323, 359. No, obviously the 359 is leaving a lot to be desired, but he struck out 9.5% of the time in his career. The guy has 208 strikeouts in 2,180 plate appearances in his career. No home run power. I mean, I think he's like 10 in his career. So, I mean, the guy doesn't, he might run into one here and there, but no home run power, 359 slugging. But he hits for average, puts up some doubles. In 2019, he played 154 games. He hit 319 with a 350 OBP, 30 doubles that season. That plays. The next year was the COVID year, 2020. He finished 17th in MVP voting. Had a good season. you get the little whatever the number is in MVP voting. You get that next to your name in Baseball Reference. You had a good year. Next year, he played 157 games. He had 27 more doubles. And in that 3-year stretch, David Fletcher hit 282, had 70 doubles in 360 games. In those 360 games, he had 149 strikeouts in 360 games. That's 149 strikeouts in 1,548 plate appearances. So kind of excited to get into David Fletcher a little bit more. He hits for average. He can pop a double. He's got a great glove. Some surprising stats when you compare him to what we already have on the roster. So he's a nice addition. He's expensive, but he's nice. So big name in the deal, David Fletcher. So Max Stassi, we don't need him. We've got 2 major league catchers on the roster, two of the best in Travis d'Arnaud, Sean Murphy. So it was no surprise on December 9th when the Braves turned around, which was yesterday, and they traded him to the White Sox with some cash. A lot of cash exchanging hands here. So the recap was we traded for Kelenic, Gonzales, and White. We flipped White and Gonzales for we ended up getting David Fletcher, Max Stassi. We flipped Stassi. So we're left with David Fletcher and Jared Kelenic, the 2 guys we want, 2 guys that are addressing the needs that we have. We had a need for utility infielder. We, after all the guys we let go and non-tendered in November, including Nicky Lopez, who was only due about $4 million. Now we're paying more for David Fletcher, but might be worth it. We'll get into that. There's a lot to just get into, and let's take this one thing at a time, Let's talk about the money. The Braves reportedly sent $9.25 million to Pittsburgh with Marco Gonzales, and they are reportedly eating most of Max Stassi's contract. So Stassi's getting paid $7 million this year, and Spot Rack has us down for about 6.2 and some change. So don't know if that's correct. A lot of the initial numbers on Spot Rack are wrong, but that sounds about right. 6 out of 7. We're eating most of that contract. Marco Gonzales was due 12.25 million. The Mariners sent us 4.5 million as part of that whole deal for him and Evan White. That's a total of 19.25 million that was due to those two players in 2024. So we're going to subtract the 4.5 million that the Mariners sent us. I have a dry erase board if I need to write this down. Are you paying attention? So we had a surplus after the trade, we had a surplus of $19.25 million. That's 19.9 a quarter. Okay, so the Mariners sent us 4.5 million. Are you paying attention? That leaves us with $15.25 million. Now it's on the dry erase board. It is official. Gonzales, we flipped him to the Pirates, and reportedly we sent them $9.25 million. That's not cool. It's not cool. We're going to pay him basically the Pirates are getting Marco Gonzales for $3 million this year. That makes Marco Gonzales a really good deal for the type of pitcher that he is. But where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us after we trade away the rest of his contract. We were at 15.25 million. We sent Gonzales to the Pirates with 9.25 million. White and Gonzales are now worth a total of 16.25 million that we're on the hook for. Atlanta's on the hook for. So 16.25 is our new total. There it is. All right, and Stassi and Fletcher came with hefty salaries. We sent Evan White to the Angels, so we got rid of his $7 million. But when we brought Stassi and Fletcher back, we added $7 million for Stassi, so that was a wash, him and White, just in terms of 2024 salaries. And then we added an additional $6 for Fletcher, so that now is $13 million between the two guys. So $13 million between those two former Angels, minus Evan White's $7 million, leaves us with an additional $6 million after that trade. And we add that to the 16.25 million that I wrote on the board here, which was the cost for Evan White and Gonzales after we moved Gonzales and then sent some money to Pittsburgh. We have 16.25 million that we didn't have before. Now, because of this deal with the Angels, we're adding another $6 million to that. That puts us at 22.25 million. It's very sloppy. I don't know if you can read it. It's $22.25 million. So we've added about over $20 million, basically to add Jared Kelenic in left field and to add David Fletcher as a utility infielder, potentially starting shortstop, second baseman if there's an injury there, or even if just Orlando Arcia goes back to being normal Orlando Arcia. So that's a lot of money, but let's forget about that payroll. We added $20 million. We addressed two of the three big needs that we have this offseason. Kelenic addresses our vacancy in left field, but he's under team control for 5 years. Like we said before, David Fletcher, solid contact hitter. He gets on base. He hits doubles, has a high average. On top of that, he's a glove, man. The guy's got 42 career defensive runs saved. Okay. And if you're not familiar, defensive runs saved is not like he saved 42 runs. It's a calculation of various statistics that shows how far above the average player at his position is. He's played several positions, so there's a breakdown where they have a pace. Like what is the pace per 135 games? So not even a full season, and he averages 13 defensive runs saved. And again, that's above the average second baseman. So at second base, he has an average, a pace of 13 over 135 games. At shortstop, it's +7. And if you're 7 runs better than the average major league shortstop, then that's really good. Those are good numbers. +9 at third, 16 in left field. He's a glove first guy. We've been saying that a lot because he doesn't have power, but he's not just a glove first guy. He is a glove. He's a quality glove that makes a lot of contact and doesn't strike out. He's missing the power aspect. That's about it. That's we call him a glove first guy because he doesn't hit a lot of homers, but he hits doubles. He puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out. He gets on base. So he's an everything but a power guy when we say glove first. That's not a fair description to David Fletcher. Um, but that's what we got in David Fletcher. Obviously, he was at his best a couple seasons ago, and maybe 3 years ago. Not so much the last two, but he's got a long enough track record that this is a quality pickup. So let's forget the number that we're looking at, this plus 20, plus $22 million that the Braves have added to their pay. We don't know what their budget is, but we do know that they've addressed two of the three big glaring holes in needs that they have. And with Kelenic, I mean, that's a huge. Maybe not a huge upgrade over what Eddie Rosario was last year and what Kelenic has been the last few years, but it is an upgrade. But the ceiling, the upgrade for the future, is a lot higher too. So this is a long term type of move. They must really see something in Kelenic, like everybody else did when he was one of the top prospects in baseball. I mean, the ceiling is high, and the Braves believe in him. Obviously, a lot of money coming off the books next year. There's going to be a lot of flexibility financially for the Braves next season. They've got a number. They've got a budget this year. We don't know what that is, but they're working within it. It leaves us one more roster spot, and that's starting pitching. And we had Marco Gonzales, quality back into the rotation guy, and the fact that the Braves moved him immediately leads you to believe that there's only one place to go with starting pitching, and it's up from Marco Gonzales. So it's not just a back end quality arm. It's someone even better, and we've already covered this before. You can read it, read the articles. You can listen to the podcast on it. Marco Gonzales is not, he is a quality arm on the back end of that rotation. He can eat up innings, put up a 3.9 ERA. That's the type of guy that we had at one point. This guy was an ace for Seattle. He was their best pitcher. And the notion that the Braves got him he was just a moving piece and he was just a part of the puzzle to get something better is reason to get excited. Hopefully, either that or they think AJ Smith Shaver or Ronaldo Lopez or someone in house is going to be a better option than him. But either way, we're spending $22 million more. We ended up with Kelenic. We ended up with Fletcher, and we're paying the Pirates and we're paying the White Sox. In the Angels. No, the Angels are paying. I can't keep track of it all. We're paying people. I know it's very frustrating. It's not that frustrating though. When you look at it like this, it's like we got rid of Eddie's $9 million. We added about 11 million, but we've got Jared Kelenic and we've got David Fletcher filling a big hole. So. A lot of moves. Like it's been a pretty fun off season so far, and hopefully we can say at the end of this that it's going to be even more fun when we can see what. Hopefully we can see a big picture acquisition because I think that's what we're all waiting for. Some kind of acquisition. Is it a trade for Tyler Glass now? Is it even as low as is it Hyunjin Ryu? I mean, it's anything to add some depth and quality to that rotation. That's what we need. So I think we might be set up for that right now. We might be set up for that. We don't know what the limit is on this budget, but I think we're going to be in good shape. And by the way, I just want to say, don't be surprised. I think I kind of hinted at this already, but don't be surprised if David Fletcher is our starting shortstop by the end of the year. Um, yeah, I won't be surprised. I have a I have a number for you. Okay, so OPS. You know how OPS is figured? Yeah, okay, most of us do, right? On base percentage, and then we add slugging percentage to it, and we get this just kind of a metric that we can use as a baseline for everybody. And okay, so Fletcher has a 359 career slugging percentage over 6 years. That's pretty bad. Sounds bad. How bad is it? Well, since 2018, I ran a filter of players with at least 2,000 plate appearances. So since 2018, I think it was his first year. That's probably why I started it in 2018. Players with at least 2,000 plate appearances. There's 155 players that meet that criteria. Of those 155 players, David Fletcher's 359 slug is the fifth worst in all of baseball. Now, OPS is calculated by adding that terrible, awful number he has in slugging percentage to his OPS or to his OBP, his on base percentage. And even when you consider the fact that he's one of the absolute worst slugging players in all of baseball since 2018, his career OPS is still higher. This is your trivia for the day. It's higher than Orlando Arcia's career OPS. I bet you didn't know that. I don't know. Would you have guessed that? Maybe you would have. Maybe you would have. But don't be surprised if he's starting. Don't be surprised if he ends up starting for us. I could see a slump from Arcia and Snit looking at the bench going, I'm going to give this slap hitting Fletcher. Give this guy a try, man. And then he gets up there. He's hitting 280, 290. You see it happening. I like the move. But anyway, I don't know what to tell you as far as what to expect next, though. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't make the big splashy starting pitching move, considering we've spent $22 million at this point. I also wouldn't be surprised if we did make the move. I have to go back. We'd have to do some calculating. I've been trying to keep up on the payroll, but we're probably right about at that 257, 260 range, I'm guessing, which is where the second tier kicks in on the. And I'm not talking about actual payroll. I'm talking about the average value, the AAV, which is what they use to calculate the competitive balance tax threshold. That's at 237 million this year. We're clear past that, and we're probably at that second tier right now, which is around 257. When you cross that second tier, we're 237. You're getting a flat 30% on everything above 237. Anything over 20 million more than that, you're going to get an extra 12%. And that's between 20 million and 40 million over the initial threshold. So 257 to 277, we're going to get an additional 12%. So that $20 million band of salary is going to be taxed at 42% instead of 30. So you have 30, then you're going to have 42 for that section. I don't think we're going to hit that third one. But if we're comfortable playing in that range, the damage is limited. It's limited if you stay within that 257 to 277 range. So, I mean, you add another 10, you add another 15 million, maybe 20. I could see it. I mean, no, you can see it. If you add another 10 in that range and the tax is 42% on it, that would be $4.2 million in a tax. So you get a $10 million guy, you're paying 14, essentially. You're paying 14.2. So not terrible. Got to get a good deal on somebody, I guess. I don't know. Again, would you be surprised if they don't make a move at this point, considering the numbers, considering where we're at, considering how much we've spent? No. What do you think is going to happen? Let us know. Let me know. Leave a comment. Go to the website, leave comments there. Just share it on social media. Let's talk about it. What's the next move for the Braves? We know we need that starting pitching. Are we going to get it, or are we looking in-house? AJSS, baby. Let us know. All right, that's all I got for you today. It was just a little bit of a drawn-out breakdown, recapping all of our moves and math. Thanks for listening.